Good morning. I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we're the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
As fuel prices keep climbing and straining Filipino families, lawmakers have moved to form a super committee to address the deepening oil crisis.
World leaders welcome the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran and are now pushing for lasting peace and stability.
Vice President Sara Duterte is seeking Supreme Court intervention to halt the impeachment proceedings against her.
The Diocesan Shrine and Parish of the Immaculate Conception in Malabon and Cardinal Pablo Virgilio David apologized over the Easter Sunday ritual involving a live pigeon.
First on the news, rising fuel prices continue to strain Filipino households, prompting lawmakers to form a super committee to address the worsening oil crisis. Here's the report.
There's still no stopping the surge in fuel prices in the country. In response, the House of Representatives has created a super committee to tackle the oil crisis. Called the Legislative Energy Action Development or LEAD Council, it is composed of 13 House committees. The group aims to deliver more direct and immediate responses, including what they call targeted assistance, for those most affected by the crisis, as well as long-term solutions and reforms.
The objective is clear: protect the Filipino people, stabilize the economy, and build resilience against future shocks.
Energy Secretary Sharon Garin also attended the hearing where lawmakers asked whether the Department of Energy needs more powers during crisis, especially with the country's deregulated oil industry.
So if DOE can, at the very least, dictate how much they should earn in times of those difficult times, then DOE can, the public can be more protected from profiteering and any other, taking advantage of the situation, Mr. Chair.
During urgent emergency situations like today, the DOE should have the power to cap the premium or income.
Ultimately, yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Because
okay
I
na
just
ako
want
doon.
to add, triggers can be based on price or on the availability of our reserves. Halimbawa, pag ang inventory level natin is below 15, pero yung presyo mababa pa rin, it should trigger still, no? Mga things like that,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Lawmakers also raised concerns over high fuel prices in the Philippines compared to neighboring countries. Data from the Energy Department shows diesel prices have surged by 111% since February 20, while gasoline prices rose by more than 70% in just 1 month.
I think it's our oil structure also of our industry. Kasi fully liberalized siya eh. And we don't have any buffers. We tax it. We don't have any buffers as into price control. Wala tayong oil stabilization fund. Unlike the other countries that are less vulnerable, meron silang subsidy on their pump price, and they have their own source of oil, and also they have their own bigger refineries.
And while prices spike quickly during global crisis, officials warn they may take longer to fall, even if tensions in the Middle East ease.
Joining us now is ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino. Good morning, Kong, and thank you for joining us again.
Hi, good morning, Angela. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so can you please tell us and explain the main objectives of this Legislative Energy Action Development or LEAD Council in addressing the ongoing fuel crisis?
I'm sorry, council?
I'm sorry, Kong? Yeah. What
So-
about
sorry,
the objectives of the Legislative Energy Action Development or the so-called super committee in the House addressing the ongoing fuel crisis?
Yeah, well, of course, the House leadership decided that it must also play a role, even though it's on a break right now and there is no session in Congress. It has decided that it should also play its part in addressing the still ongoing crisis brought about by the U.S. And Israel war against Iran, leading to this unprecedented energy crisis. And so all of these committees have been mobilized to jointly conduct hearings on numerous issues. Yesterday, it was about the briefings on the energy situation and the prospects in the coming months, as well as the macroeconomic situation, the possible effects, the actual effects on the economy in the coming year. So effects on inflation, on the job situation, and so on. And eventually, proposals for legislative action will be discussed as well.
Okay, so beyond of course, the immediate relief that our kababayans need, no, as of the moment, ano po yung long-term reforms that are being planned there? Are we also looking at, kasi some people are saying na this crisis really, exposed, no, our vulnerability when it comes to the supplies that we have. So are we also looking at that aspect as well, Kong, no, regarding po dun sa supply ng ating bansa? Are we also looking at other supply chains, no, na magbibigay sa atin ng oil? Your thoughts on that po?
Well, of course, this crisis exposed very dramatically our dependence on oil from the Middle East. Going to the Strait of Hormuz. And so, yes, isa yan sa mga pag-uusapan, no? In the short term, paano ma-address ito. So, pinag-usapan kahapon, for example, ng Department of Energy, saan ba pwedeng makakuha ng oil in the meantime. Pero in the longer term, of course, kailangang mas pag-usapan ang usapin ng self-reliance on energy. And the one possible and desirable response to that would be focusing more on renewables. So, bukod sa makakatulong ito sa, of course, sa laban sa global warming, ay renewable energy means relying more on domestic sources of energy. So that includes, for example, solar, meron na tayo sa long time, hydro and geothermal, among others.
Oo. Pero may mga... Kung may panukala po kasi may mga usap-usapin last few weeks, no, na they're also looking at itong joint oil exploration with China. But personally and in the Congress, was this also discussed?
Hindi masyadong pinag-usapan yan. In fact, I don't think that was raised at all yesterday. Bahagi yun ng pag-develop ng ating domestic sources of energy. So of course, meron ng mga known reserves sa West Philippine Sea, including in Recto Bank. At mahigit isang dekada na stalled ang pag-develop dito dahil nga sa pangimasok ng China sa ating exclusive economic zone. So, ang kailangan talaga ay political will, no? Kailangan itulak ng gobyerno o magbigay ng go-ahead ang gobyerno sa mga private sector players at the moment na supposedly handa nang i-develop ito. Meron ngayong usapin ng joint development with China, binubuksan muli. Talks along that line were started during the Duterte administration, pero in the end, hindi nagbunga dahil ang issue, of course, is yung constitution natin requires that sovereignty or our sovereign rights in the West Philippine Sea, including the energy reserves there, should be recognized. At hindi naman at that point hindi handang gawin yun ng China. So in that case, pwede naman ang joint development kung dahil nga hindi wala tayong sapat na kakayahan para gawin yan at the moment, no? So pwede naman ang joint development with other entities, but under Philippine sovereignty and
Right.
recognizing Philippines.
Kung may mga ilan lang lawmakers po na nag-suggest din no, regarding ito, Department of Energy, na bigyan daw sila ng powers to cap premiums pag crisis. And do you support this po? And in principle, how would this work?
You mean capping
Price
prices?
cap.
Yeah, that's right.
Opo. Yes. Well, tama yun. Dapat ang nangyari nga, napakita ang epekto ng deregulation sa Pilipinas, ng oil or energy deregulation sa Pilipinas. Yesterday at the hearing, I cited some statistics that showed that pinakamataas yung rate ng increase ng gasoline and diesel among the highest in the world tayo. No, either top 2 or top 3 in the world in terms of rate of increase of prices in the past month. No, at what does this show? Ibig sabihin hindi pangkaraniwan yung nararanasan ng mga Pilipino dahil napaka extreme ng deregulation na ginawa as a policy, na inadopt as a policy since since the 90s, the 1990s. Talagang ibig sabihin, yung gobyerno ng Pilipinas sa ilalim ng ganitong batas, may killing o may pagpabor sa oil corporations sa pagtiyak na tumutubo sila. Sa halip na ang mga ibang bansa, ang mayorya ng ibang mga bansa, sa daigdig na somehow or other, ang patakaran nila ay protektahan ang kanilang mga consumers from the volatility of oil prices.
That's right.
No, yun ang pinapakita noon. So kaya rin kahapon na-discuss din at kahit si Energy Secretary Garin mismo, kahit siya nagsabi na dapat balikan natin, i-review natin itong oil deregulation law. No, and so ibig sabihin nito, kailangan mabigyan muli ang gobyerno natin ng yung full range of tools to address a crisis such as this. And that would include, for example, the power to set price caps on fuel products in times of extreme crisis such as this.
Right.
No, sa ngayon, wala yan, particularly for gasoline and diesel.
That's right.
The Price Act currently allows or actually mandates that when there is a declaration of a state of emergency, automatically dapat actually may price freeze para sa LPG at saka sa kerosene. Actually, our law says that even though hindi ito i-implement ang gobyerno ngayon.
Right. Pero kung in the meantime, no, while all of this is being talked about, ano po magagawa natin? Especially ito, we've been talking to several jeepney drivers or those who drive diesel vehicles, and sabi nila 50% of their trips na-cut na daw at they don't know how much longer they can last. And if a price cap happens naman in the future, how long can the price cap be enforced? So, ano po magagawa natin in case diesel remains at the 100 peso level?
Well, at some point, kailangan talagang pumasok ang gobyerno in the form of subsidies to the transport sector. So, meron na naman ganyan ngayon. no? Pero kailangan matiyak na nagpapatuloy ang serbisyo ng public transport. Uh, um, Otherwise, so in other words, kailangan tiyakin ng gobyerno na may priority para may patuloy na mobility pa rin ang mga pinakamahirap sa ating lipunan. Otherwise, there will be rationing by price. Ibig sabihin yung makaka-afford, patuloy pa silang makakalakbay sa kanilang mga kotse, pero yung mas mahirap, hindi na makakapasok sa trabaho, mahirapang pumasok sa trabaho dahil doon. So, I think pinag-uusapan din naman yan, both in Malacanang and in Congress. No, ano yung mga specific forms that will take, no? Paano pinakamainam na ma-subsidize ang transport sector in a way that continued service will be ensured.
Right? Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras sa ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino.
Magandang umaga.
Thank you. Now, world leaders welcomed the 2-week ceasefire between the United States and Iran, urging that the temporary truce be turned into a lasting opportunity for peace and regional stability. Here is the report.
World leaders have welcomed the 2-week ceasefire between the United States and Iran, responding with cautious optimism and urging the truce be transformed into a viable long-term peace agreement. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon both described the ceasefire as positive news. French President Emmanuel Macron said a ceasefire should open the door to renewed negotiations on Iran's nuclear and ballistic capabilities.
Je veux ici saluer qui, pour le moment, autant que l'information soit juste, respectée sur le terrain. Et donc nous attendons que pour, en effet, les jours et les semaines qui viennent, ils puissent être pleinement respectés dans toute la région et permettre que des négociations se tiennent, qui, comme d'ailleurs la France le défend depuis 2018, permettent de régler de manière durable les questions nucléaires, balistiques, régionales qui ont trait à l'Iran.
Turkish and Portuguese ministers also praised the agreement, calling it an opportunity to pursue lasting and sustainable stability in the region. The European Commission welcomed the development as well, emphasizing that the next step should be an enduring solution in affirming the EU's readiness to support continued diplomacy. It also underscored the importance of keeping the Strait of Hormuz open in accordance with international law.
For us, the EU, our priorities remain preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon and to put an end to its destabilizing activities, including its ballistic missile program, as well as guarantee freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz in line with international law and the law of the sea.
Pope Leo XIV likewise welcomed the ceasefire, calling it a sign of true hope and urging that diplomacy prevail not only in this conflict but in others around the world.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. The legal battle over Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment is escalating as lawmakers push back against her move to seek Supreme Court intervention. Here's the report.
Ang Vice President nagipit sa Supreme Court talaga kumakapit. Confirmed, wala talaga siyang balak harapin itong kaso.
Akbayan Portal List Representative Percy Sandanya has criticized Vice President Sara Duterte's move to seek Supreme Court intervention, saying it shows she has no intention of facing the cases against her. This comes after Duterte filed a petition before the High Court to stop the impeachment proceedings against her. Her legal team argues that the House of Representatives committed grave abuse of discretion, claiming it was unconstitutional to refer the complaints to the House Committee on Justice without a full plenary vote. They also oppose what they describe as a mini trial being conducted by the committee.
Desperado na sila, natatakot na lumabas ang ebidensya, natatakot na lumabas ang katotohanan. Kasi alam ni VP Sara, paglabas ng ebidensya, wala na siyang takas.
For Bicol Saro Representative Terry Ridon, the Vice President's camp is misleading both the Supreme Court and the public, adding that there was no irregularity in the impeachment process. He said the referral of the complaints was done by the plenary last February 23 and does not violate the one-year ban rule. ML Party List Representative Laila De Lima said the committee will not be deterred by the petition filed before the Supreme Court. Vice President Duterte attended an event in Davao City but did not grant interviews. Her camp has earlier insisted that she is not evading the impeachment proceedings. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has ordered respondents to comment on the petition, including House Speaker Bogie D, Congressman Jervil Luistro, and the complainants. According to Ridon, there is still no temporary restraining order against the impeachment proceedings and said the committee is set to proceed with hearings on April 14.
Let's now talk to Manila 3rd District Representative Joel Chua. Good morning, Kong. Thank you for joining us.
Morning.
Hi, good morning. At sa lahat po ng inyong mga taga-subaybay, good morning po.
Well, of
Thanks for
course-
having me today.
Thank you, Kong. And of course, I'd like to hear your take on Vice President Sara Duterte and her team, this time seeking Supreme Court intervention to halt the impeachment proceedings. Ano po ang tingin nyo dito?
Well, without the TRO, tuloy-tuloy lang po tayo dito.
Right.
This is another dilatory tactics on the part of the Vice President. But if I remember it correctly, last year they were very they were saying na gusto rin nila ng hearing. In fact, the Vice President was asking for bloodbath. So now that we are giving them the opportunity to answer all the allegations against them, ngayon tatakbo naman sila sa Supreme Court. So confused din ako eh.
Ay, gusto ko klaruhin po, Kong, no? Because just like we want to understand, ano po mismo ang kine-question this time ni VP Sara? Is it the committee saying na sinasabi niya na parang nagiging trial court na daw kayo?
Well, lahat kinu-question nila eh. But alam mo, sa totoo lang, we are just following the procedure. We are, in fact, itong procedure, no, itong rules that we are following right now, adopted lamang to ng 20th Congress. So, from 19th Congress pa to na sinusunod. So, wala naman kaming nilalabag dito sa procedure.
Alright, Kong, of course, the Supreme Court, instead of releasing a TRO, has asked the Committee on Justice to reply or comment on the complaint of the Vice President. Is it too early to tell na sa tingin niyo po ba, by doing that, by releasing that ruling ng SC, ay wala po silang nakikitang matinding ebidensya dito sa complaint ng Vice President, or is it too early to tell?
Too early to tell. Pero sa akin, wala naman ako nakikita talagang grounds para mag-TRO ang Supreme Court. As a matter of procedure, siguro, they would ask us to answer. Pero hanggang dun lang yon. Dahil ako, nakikita ko naman, sa nakikita ko, wala naman ako nakikitang mali sa ginagawa ng Committee on Justice.
Alright, so after 10 days, binibigyan po ang Committee on Justice to comment nga po doon sa petition na final ng Vice President. Ano po ang mangyayari after? What can we expect after that?
Basta kami po, tuloy-tuloy lang kami. On April 14, we will proceed with our trial. Tatlong hearing dates lang ang Senate Chairman until the end of April. And after which, kung wala na sigurong itatakel, then we will vote upon the probable cause. After which, kung may probable cause, isasampa na ito sa plenaryo and we need 1/3 vote.
Okay, so just recently, a few moments ago, I just read a report that the House Committee on Justice, kasama po kayo doon, ay nagpasabina na po kay Attorney Michael Powa, no, para po sa susunod na hearing po ninyo on April 14. And itong sabina na to, ay speaking of this, ay isa po doon sa mga complaints ni Vice President Sara Duterte that wala daw pong karapatan ang House Committee on Justice na magsabina ng mga evidence because yun nga daw po, you are doing a mini trial.
That is not true. In fact, hindi lang yung Committee on Justice. Lahat po ng mga committee sa Congress may right to issue subpoena. This is part of, this is written in our rules under Section 7. So wala po akong nakikitang mali dito because we are required to, in fact, pati po siya pwede po siyang mag-submit ng kanyang evidence. No? So kami naman, we are required also to obtain additional evidence. Hindi pa naman, we are not expected to cross-examine Attorney Powa or any witnesses for that matter. Ang purpose lang nitong subpoena, the reason why we are asking them to appear is to identify at least yung mga signature kung sila nga yun, and to ask clarificatory questions.
Yes.
So mababaw lang. This is like preliminary investigation.
So kumbaga, Kong, what happens if hindi sila tumugon sa subpoena and they refuse?
Well, if they will refuse, no, tutuloy lang kami. Kasi kagaya niyan, yung kay Ramil Madriaga, siyempre, we wanted to know kung ito ba ay kusang loob niyang yung salaysay, yung sinumpaang salaysay na kanyang inisyo. Siyempre, gusto namin malaman kung kusang loob niya itong sinalaysay. Kung siya ba talaga yung nakapirma doon, wala bang pumupuwersa sa kanya. So, mga ganyan lang naman, hindi naman ganun kalalalim ang tanong dito.
Kung buti na banggit niyo no, regarding what's going to happen. No? So, para klaro lang rin sa public, yung mga sinusupina nyo, hindi nyo po hindi malaliman tanong as to yung statement, but rather, ko-confirm nyo lang kung sila nga ang nagbigay or nagbigay ng statement na gano'n, sila ang pumirma. Parang on the surface lang, ganun ba, Kong?
Tama po kayo dahil parang preliminary investigation lang to Clarificatory questions lang ang mga itatanong namin dito. So wala pa dito yung mga cross-examination. Yung cross-examination that will be done during the trial proper, which is sa Senate.
Sa Senate.
Yo, at least malinaw na.
Right, oo. Alright, Kong, speaking of Ramil Madriaga, the court granted appearance of this alleged bagman. So ano po yung ma-expect natin dito? Siya po ba ay mag-appear na sa April 14 din?
I was told yesterday that the application or the petition by the Committee on Justice to request for the appearance of Ramil Madriaga before the committee was already approved by the court.
Right.
So we expect him sa April 14 to appear before the Committee on Justice.
And how significant is his statements, knowing that most of the complaints naman po against the Vice President dito sa kanyang impeachment proceedings were also tackled already nung last Congress, nung dun sa first impeachment sa kanya. But this time around po kasi, there's Ramil Madriaga.
Well, if you will remember it, if my memory will serve me right, no, during the Committee on Good Government, we conducted investigation with respect to the confidential fund. Now, meron po dito mga pending questions like saan napunta yung pera, di ba? Ang tinuturo nun, ang humawak si Colonel Nolasco at saka si Colonel Lachica. Doon po tinurn over nung dalawang SDO o yung tinatawag natin na Special Disbursing Officer. Now, dito sa statement ni Ramil Madriaga, parang sa kanya ibinigay, sa kanya hinand over itong money through duffel bag at dineliver niya to certain area. So yan ang mga laman ng kanyang sinumpaang salaysay.
Okay, and then isa rin po sa mga talagang pinag-uusapan dito sa impeachment court or impeachment complaint against the Vice President still yung issue po ng confidential funds nga po niya at yung usapin po ng kung sino si Mary Grace Piatos, etc. Of course, sa kampo po nila, marin po nilang tinatanggi at sinasabi po nila na ito po ay confidential funds at hindi po talaga po pwedeng ipakita, no, i-divulge yung information ng kanilang mga sources. Your thoughts on that po?
Well, alam po ninyo, yung hindi lang naman diyan kay Mary Grace Piatos ang issue sa confidential fund eh. Ang isa pa sa mga issue dito, kung maalala po ninyo, is yung 1 million worth of rentals ng safe house. So how do they explain it? Parang 4-day rental, 1 million. At kung maalala rin ninyo, dun sa confidential fund ng DepEd, meron pong 4 na AFP personnel na nag-certify na wala naman talagang na-download na confidential na pondo galing from DepEd. Although they were required to submit certificate. So, yan yung isa sa mga issue po dito sa confidential fund.
Kung yung isang kini-question ng iba yung pag-ikot daw ng pera sa confidential funds ay mostly through the duffel bags, through cash. Labag din daw ito sa certain rules because dapat daw may paper trail, may either through electronic or through checks. Ano po ang tugon nyo dito?
Not only that, hindi lang ang may hawak supposedly ng confidential fund is yung SDO.
That's right.
Yung tinatawag natin na Special Disbursing Officer. Now, the question is, bakit napunta yung confidential fund kay Nolasco, kay La Chica at ngayon kay May Madriaga pa?
Yeah.
So ito yung mga katanungan na dapat sagutin nila.
Right. Okay. So, can we also talk about po itong recent pagsasabina po no, sa PINA kay Attorney Powa? Ano po ba yung mga gusto po natin makuha from him? And there's also a discussion on him being one of the legal counsels of Vice President Sara Duterte, na sinasabi nila na medyo may conflict of interest doon because he can be a resource person as well for this case.
Well, hindi naman siya pinapunta dito as a lawyer eh. Hindi naman siya ini-invite as lawyer because we understand that there is a attorney-client privilege. So, hindi naman yun ang itatanong sa kanya eh. Yung participation niya sa DepEd, I think USEC ba siya o ASEC, during that time, yun ang ano niya dito. Kasi may mga pinirmahan niya siyang documents dito. So yun ang magiging papel na dito. Not as a lawyer, but as employee of DepEd.
Alright.
Alright, Kong. So what happens after yung 3 days po nagkakaroon na ng naghanap kayo ng probable cause, you elevate this to plenary for the vote. Based po sa inyong pakikipag-usap sa isang congressman, ano po ang sentiment nila with regards to how you think they might vote?
Well, sa ngayon naman, nakikita naman natin, no? So sufficiency in substance, sufficiency in form, we were able to get more than sufficient, no? Sa 54 yata, 54 votes as to 1 against. So nung nagkaroon ng botohan sa sufficiency in ground, more than sufficient din ang nakuha natin. So we expect na dito sa probable cause, pag nailatag na itong lahat, we also get the same numbers or even more.
Right. Kong, of course, a lot of people are saying, questioning also the timing of, talking about the impeachment complaint against the Vice President, saying na we're in a crisis right now at ito pa daw yung inaatupag natin. What can you say about that? Also, about the survey recently saying the majority of the Filipinos nag-o-oppose nga po dito sa usapin ng impeachment complaint.
Alam mo yung timing, the timing was filed even before this crisis happened. So, and hindi naman po Congress ang nag-file nung impeachment. It was a private citizen. Kami po, we are just doing our constitutional duty as member of the Committee on Justice and member of the House to, tugunan itong complaint because that is our constitutional duty. Now, we should not, hindi natin po pwedeng ibaliwalain ito dahil ito po kasi usapin na accountability. So are you saying na pati po ba yung investigasyon sa ibang issue kagaya ng flood control, dapat din tumigil dahil meron po tayong crisis? Yung mga hinihir po sa sandigang bayan na mga problema rin ng taong bayan, dapat ba tumigil rin dahil meron po tayong crisis? So ito po tuloy-tuloy lamang. Pero hindi naman po ibig sabihin nito, ito lang ang ginagawa namin. In fact, kahapon po, nagkaroon ng joint committee hearing ang Kongreso kung saan 14 or 13 or 14 committees ang nagsama-sama para po mabigyan ng briefing yung dito po sa crisis na ating kinakaharap. It was attended by members of the cabinet from different departments. Nandun po sila Secretary Sharon Garin, and so forth and so on. So lahat po yan, tinutugunan po natin. This is part of our job and part of our constitutional duty.
Well, going back to the Supreme Court, of course, some legal luminaries are saying na kung mismong procedure ng House of Representatives ang kumbaga dinidesisyonan ng Supreme Court, maaaring magkaroon po ng mga judicial overreach. Don't you think that it's high time to review the provision in the Constitution where Supreme Court justices na who are also, nga sinasabi nila, impeachable din, na sila po yung mga nagde-decide po, no, on how Congress should deal with proceedings such as this?
Well, ako I agree with the observation of some of our legal luminaries. And in fact, with all due respect to the Honorable Court, no, I do not agree with their decision during the first impeachment complaint, wherein they decided that, wherein they defined the meaning of session day. So kasi para sa akin pakikialam 'yun ng ng rules namin. Of course, ayaw rin naman siguro nila na pati yung rules nila pakikialaman din ng Kongreso because we are both separate bodies, no? So kaya nga etong lahat ng itong nangyayari po sa atin something na dapat tignan at pag-aralan po.
So you believe, para klaro lang Kong, no, you believe that there was judicial overreach sa una pa lang?
Sa una pa lang po, I believe that there was already judicial overreach by, of course, redefining the session days. Isipin nyo, could you imagine, matagal nang ginagawa ng Kongreso yon. Yung session day, binago po nila for purposes of impeachment. Kailan pa po nangyari yung ganun?
Pero kung what happens now, kasi nag-set na ng precedents na even though most of the congressmen we've also spoken to, they do believe may overreach, pero sumunod pa rin ang House of Representatives. So moving forward, paano po itong may precedents? If mangyari ulit to, what will happen now?
Well, siyempre, sinunod namin yon dahil ayaw naman namin na magkaroon tayo ng constitutional crisis. So we hope, no, na the Supreme Court will not go beyond kung ano man yung dapat sa kanila lang.
Alright, of course, ito pong, kumbaga, ang term na ginamit ay pagpunta, no, paghingi ng saklolo ni Vice President Sara Duterte sa Supreme Court nga na i-complain po na inullify ito pong mga complaints sa kanya. Was this expected na po by the House of Representatives?
Nung nag-file po sila ng answer ad cautelam, doon pa lang, they're already questioning the jurisdiction of the House Committee. Ganun din ang ginawa nila doon sa nung nakaraan So, parang ina-anticipate na rin namin.
Kasi may mga nagsasabi po na meron pong misleading, no, na nangyayari po dito sa Supreme Court and the public. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. Kumbaga, kanya-kanyang narrative ito
Alright. And of course, isa po doon, no, sa one of the major complaints po or nirereklamo po ni Vice President Sara Duterte dito sa kanyang pagpunta sa Supreme Court ay yung one-year bar rule, no? Ito po yung central complaint of the camp of Vice President Sara Duterte. Perhaps can you tell us again, ano po ba yung itong sinasabi niya regarding bar rule? Meron po ba talagang pagkakamali ang House of Representatives regarding this?
Alam mo, if you will recall, no, there were 4 impeachment complaints that were filed. The second impeachment complaint was withdrawn by the complainant prior to the committee hearing. Yung first impeachment complaint was extensively discussed during the committee hearing, kaya nga po hindi po siya naisama dito. Kaya ang natira is yung third and fourth. Precisely because we do not want to na magamit itong one-year bar rule again dito. Kasi nauna pa nilang i-final ang dun sa unang decision ng Korte Suprema, sinasabi doon dapat not earlier than February 6.
Yes.
But it was, I think, February 3 or 4, parang ganon.
Yeah.
So may issue because dun po sa second Supreme Court decision by redefining the word session day, no?
Oo.
Parang na-shorten yung period. It was not expressly revised, or it was not expressly stated during the second Supreme Court ruling na nire-revise nila yung first pronouncement nila na February 6.
Right.
So, kaya kami, naging maingat kami at ito talaga yung iningatan namin. Kaya nga po yung unang impeachment complaint ay hindi po namin sinama dito.
Oo. Alright, on that note, once again, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. Manila 3rd District Representative Joel Chua. Good morning.
Thank you po. Mabuhay po kayo.
Fewer Filipino fisherfolk are going out to sea as fuel prices continue to surge, according to an agri-group. Sinag said the number of active fishers in several Luzon provinces has already dropped by as much as half. Data shows that even before the latest price hike, around 30% had already stopped fishing, but this has now risen to nearly 50%. The group said those who will still go out are catching less, as high fuel costs prevent them from traveling far.
Joining us now is Fernando Hicap, National Chair of Pamalakaya, to give us the latest situation on the ground as fisherfolk grapple with rising fuel costs. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Ay, magandang umaga, no? Sa ating mga taga-subaybay, magandang umaga po.
Wala pong ibang po pwedeng magsabi sa amin o magbigay ng update sa talaga pong tunay na nararamdaman at na-experience po ng mga ating mga kapatid na mangingisda, kundi po kayo at inyong mga grupo. Gaano na po ba katindi itong impact ng fuel price hikes po sa atin, sa inyo po?
Walang kapantay na, no, Susan, yung epekto. Kasi bago pa man, itong halos 120%, no, na pagtaas ng gasolina na gamit namin, ay 80% na nung total na gastos namin sa produksyon ay napupunta na doon. Kaya ibig sabihin, umaas yan ng 120% dahil dito sa girang agresyon ng Estados Unidos doon sa Iran, ay halos wala nang kita, no, yung ating mga mangingisda. Kumbaga sa yung idinagdag doon sa gastos sa gasolina, ay yun na yung tikong ng ating mga mangingisda. Kaya marami ng mga mangingisda natin sa municipal fisher, even sa mga commercial fishing, meron na rin na kaming na-monitor na nag-limit na rin, no, ng kanilang pangingisda.
Pero on the ground, sir, no, nakikita niyo po ba pakonti ang lumalabas? Kasi tuloy-tuloy po ang pagtaas ng gasolina at diesel at it looks like this will continue to happen for the next 3 to 4 weeks kasi wala pong resolution na nangyayari sa Iran at sa US. Ano po mangyayari kung tuloy-tuloy ang pagtaas at pumalo ang gasolina sa 120 or 130 mark?
Yes, tama po yun, no? Ako mismo, no? Ako mismo dahil ako ay sumasama sa pangingisda kapag may panahon. At ako mismo, kapitbahay ko ay mga mangingisda. Kaya ako mismo, saksi kung gaano kalala na yung epekto daw sa ating mga mangingisda. Marami ng mga mangingisda na talagang napilitan na, na maglaot dahil wala ng kapasidad, dahil nga doon sa wala nang mautangan, At wala nang nagpapautang dahil napakalaki na ng utang nila. Kaya yung ginagawa ngayon, yung ibang meron pang kapasidad para maglaot, nakikisama yung mga hindi na makalaot. Kung hindi ka makakuha ng trabaho, ang problema doon, dumadami yung bilang doon sa isang bangka. Kung dati ang regular sa isang bangka ay mga 2 hanggang 3 katao, ngayon umabot na ng 3 hanggang 4 hanggang 5. Kaya malaking kabawasan doon sa kita. At meron ding ilan na yung mga pamilya nila napipilitan na talaga, hindi naman personally na minamasama natin yung mga babayan natin na nabubuhay na lang sa pangangalakal, pamumulot ng basura. Pero yun na yun, may mga ganun ang sitwasyon. Kapitbahay ko mismo, talagang namumulot na silang mag-asawa na kung ano yung pwedeng mapakinabangan na inaano doon sa pangpang. Kaya ganun na kalala. Ganun natin maiambing yung kalagayan ng ating mga mangingisda.
So nabanggit niyo po minsan sa isang bangka madaming mga mangingisda, paano po yung hatian nun? Kanya-kanyang huli or kung ano yung nahuli, i-divide na lang yung kita?
Yes, ang ano diyan, natural na patakaran, awas nila yung gastos, yung kabuuang gastos, tapos yung natitira ay hatiin nila yon. Tige isang party, kung 5 kayo magkakasama, plus yung bangka merong isang party rin, saka yung lambat, isang party rin. Kaya kung 5 kayo magkakasama, bali 7. Hatiin mo. Kaya napakaliit na yung matitira. Yun yung kung merong makukuha. Ang isang problema nga, dahil nga doon sa pumapasok na rin yung mga commercial fishing vessel dahil doon sa Supreme Court Decision 2024 na pinapayagan na sila pumasok sa municipal fishing ground. Ilalo wala ng kapasidad, wala ng hindi kaya makipagkompetensya ng mga malilit na mangingisda. Kaya burden pa rin yun, dagdag pa yun. Tapos marami pang burden kasi sa amin Hindi na rin talaga kami fully, yung access doon sa municipal fishing ground kasi merong mga umiiral na mga municipal ordinance na bawal mangisda yung hindi rehistrado doon sa kanilang munisipyo. For example, kung dito sa Manila Bian, pag pumunta ka sa Parañaque, hulihin ka kung taga Nabutas o taga Cavite ka. At pag pumunta ka doon sa Naik, pag hindi ka rehistrado doon, hulihin ka rin. Kaya gano'n lang, dito within di Manila Bian, Kaya doon sa mga munisipyo na mayroon pang ganun, burden pa rin sa amin. Kung baga nandiyan na yung commercial fishing diesel, nandiyan ba yung mga burden, hindi na malaya makapangisda yung mga mangisda within the municipal fishing ground. Tapos itong pinakamabigat, yung pagtaas, pagsirit ng presyo ng gasolina.
Oo. Pero paano po yung yung subsidy po ng gobyerno? Nasa mga report po namin, sinasabi nila na nagbibigay po sila, may mga programa para po sa ating mga mangingisda, fuel subsidy, etc. May nakakaabot po bang tulong na ganun po sa inyo, at least man po sa inyo at sa inyong grupo?
Naririnig namin, Actually, sabi ng DA, yung spokesman ng DA, si Asig Dimisa, yung 2025 na budget para ng DA, para sa fuel subsidy sa mga mangingisda at magsasaka, ay ipamamahagi na. Pero hanggang ngayon, wala pa. Wala pang nabigyan at wala pang nare-receive yung ating mga mangingisda. Maliban doon sa wala pa, kakarampot lang yung mabibigyan. Halimbawa, kung sa mga mangingisda yan, 14,439 lang yung magbibigyan, samantalang more than 300,000 based doon sa PSA registration ng mga bangka, municipal fisher, ang rehistrado.
So wala pa po kayo din kakilala na mga mangingisda, kahit isa o dalawa na nagsabi po nakakuha ng ayuda mula or fuel subsidy mula sa gobyerno?
Wala pa po. Sa lahat ng member namin, sa hindi namin member, kausap namin, talagang meron pa nga na sinasabi, wala nga pumupunta sa amin, tinatanong kami, rehistrado kami, ba kami o hindi. Pero wala maramdaman.
Doon po sa sinasabi po kasi nila na itong fuel subsidy para po sa mga mangingisda, yung iba po kasi ang kanilang hinaing din dito, parang may mga certain guidelines na ibibigay ay yung may mga may-ari lamang daw ng bangka. Hindi naman daw po lahat ng mga mangingisda ay may-ari ng bangka. Tulad nga po na nasabi nyo kanina, sa isang bangka, 7 po kayo na mga, or 4 no, na mangingisda.
Tama po yun, no? Kahit fuel subsidy lang yan, ibig sabihin, yung bangka, yung mabibigyan lang, yung may-ari, para pambili ng gasolina. Hindi po mga mangisda. Kaya nga, maliban doon, kung talagang yung mga bangka, kahit yun, no, ay hindi pa rin talaga buo lahat mabibigyan kasi based sa registration in 2023 ng Philippine PSA, no? More than 300,000 na bangkang motor na rehistrado sa municipal fisher. Kaya kung more than 300,000 yan at 14,439 to be exact, no, na beneficiary doon sa 2025 budget na fuel subsidy ng DE ang mabibigyan.
Okay. Alright, sige po, patuloy po kami makikipag-ugnayan sa inyo regarding this issue. For the meantime, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. Fernando Hicap, National Chair of Pamalakaya. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Salamat po at mabuhay po at ng programa.
Now, actress Cyril Manabat has criticized a ride-hailing driver after allegedly receiving inappropriate remarks. Manabat said she was caught off guard by the situation, noting that she had been polite during the trip and even gave a tip, only to later see a post by the driver that included a double-meaning caption and inappropriate comments. The actress emphasized that the incident reflects a broader issue of respect and safety regardless of what someone wears. Manabat added that she may take further action regarding the situation.
I'm really vocal about protecting women, protecting me against any sexual assault or sexualizing women. Yun talaga yung advocacy ko. So now, seeing that, that's the first time na nakita ko yan. Hindi ko yan papalagpasan. Of course, hindi dapat nagiging entertainment yan in any forms. And at the same time, I hope the platform or the app should do something about this. Punta lang ako ng trabaho niyan. And imagine kung gaano kahirap yung buhay ng isang babae. Nagtrabaho ka lang, may nagpa-picture lang sa'yo. You're just being kind. You're just being a human. A decent human being.
Women are coming together not just to create, but to have important conversations about health and well-being. An event in Makati combined art and advocacy, highlighting the importance of preventive care, including awareness on cervical cancer. Mobile Journal Kayla Makantan reports.
Women balancing careers and personal lives gathered to reflect, create, and engage. A creative mug-making workshop was one of the highlights of the event held at Common Ground Rockwell in Makati City. Titled Because She Can, the event aimed to reconnect women from different fields while encouraging open discussions on wellness and preventive health. Through hands-on activities, participants were reminded that just like clay, their lives and health are shaped by intentional choices.
Working with clay is like our lives. We shape it, and it goes through all these stages, its challenges, but still we get transformed to a stronger material.
While the clay represented the strength of women, the discussions turned to a vital aspect of maintaining that strength, preventive health. Among the key topics discussed was HPV and cervical cancer, a pressing yet highly preventable health concern in the Philippines. Data show that around 7,800 Filipinas are diagnosed with cervical cancer each year, with about 12 women dying daily from the disease. Persistent high-risk HPV infection causes around 99% of cervical cancer cases. Experts also highlight that HPV is common, affecting both men and women, with 80 to 90% of sexually active individuals likely to get infected at least once in their lifetime. While most cases clear on their own, some can lead to serious diseases including cancer. Despite this, cervical cancer remains preventable through vaccination, regular screening, and early intervention, making awareness and access to health services critical.
I know it's hard, especially for a Filipino family. Since it's a preventive cause, hindi mo siya ipaprioritize agad if tight yung budget mo. So I hope more organizations, or most especially the government, would prioritize health in terms of vaccinations like for HPV.
Kapatid Kayla Makantan, We are One News.
The crew of NASA's Artemis II mission is now heading back to the Earth after completing a historic flyby of the moon. 4 astronauts traveled farther into space than any humans before, reaching over 252,000 miles from Earth as they passed the moon's far side. The crew also connected with astronauts aboard the International Space Station, sharing their experience of the first lunar flyby in more than 50 years. They are also expected to complete their 10-day mission with a splashdown in the Pacific Ocean on April 10.
It was a day of high-stakes action on the hard court, with LaSalle edging closer to a UAAP Final Four sweep and Savoj pulling off a stunning upset in the Spikers' turf semifinals. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho has the report.
It was a big day on the hard court, with LaSalle locking in a Final Four bonus in the UAAP, while Savoj pulled off a major upset in Spikers' turf. In the UAAP Season 88 Women's Volleyball Tournament, LaSalle escaped a tough challenge from FAU to stay unbeaten and secure a twice-to-beat advantage in the Final Four. The Lady Spikers took the first 2 sets, but FAU came alive and forced a deciding fifth, before LaSalle regained control to seal the 25-17, 25-22, 23-25, 19-25, 15-10 win at the Mall of Asia Arena. The victory puts LaSalle a step closer to an elimination sweep and keeps its chances of earning an outright finals berth intact. Shavana Laput led the way with 25 points, while Angel Canino delivered 24 points, 14 digs, and 10 excellent receptions. But for Canino, the win was also a wake-up call.
Itong match na to, sobrang grateful namin kasi napanalo namin. Pero I think kailangan din talaga tingnan namin kung anong nangyari sa game na to. Hindi lang yung result kasi madami kami mga lapses talaga as a team.
Meanwhile, University of the Philippines boosted its Final Four bid after a straight sets win over Ateneo 25-20, 25-14, 25-23. The Fighting Maroons improved to 5 wins in 11 games behind Nina Itang, who finished with 18 points. Over in the 2026 Spikers Turf Open Conference, Savoj scored its biggest win yet, handing Crisscross its first loss of the tournament. The Spin Doctors outlasted the league leaders in 5 sets, 25-22, 19-25, 20-25, 25-23, 15-13, to open the semifinals with a statement win. Shawi Caritativo helped push Savoj to match points before Mark Calado delivered the match winner to complete the upset. Calado finished with 14 points to lead Savoj.
Aminin naman talaga natin, lahat talaga gusto matalo si Custos kasi syempre napakagaling na team. Andun lahat ng mga kilalang players din. So, yun. Proud din ako na kahit papaano nakatikim din kami ng panalo.
Earlier, AEP Cavstars also opened the semis with a win after beating Alpha Insurance in 4 sets, 22-25, 25-19, 25-16, 29-27. Jared Schnacky led the way with 23 points in a strong all-around performance. Kapatid Denise Valdesancho, we are One News.
And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro. And don't forget, happy
Day of Valor.
Day of Valor.
Araw ng kagitingan sa mga magigiting na Pilipino at magigiting
84 na.
magigiting
84th
na
anniversary.
husbands. And I'm Angelo Castro III, kapatid. We are One News.
For saludo tayo sa lahat ng mga mandirigma, di ba, ng mga veterans dito. All sides, all the time.